Announcing the commencement of the first purge.
I want you to change the world, and don't think that this is going to happen peacefully or you can do it alone. We need to kill the rich. You get out there, you use your weapons, and you rip Washington apart. You hunt down the billionaires, the bank bosses, the CEOs, the scumbags, and the liars, the governors, the lobbyists, the senators, because they're all the same, and you hang them.
Just remember all the good the purge does.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is July 27th, 2018. I'm Eric. How's everyone doing? I hope you're all well. I'm here at the globalresearch.com, or .ca rather, Center for Research on Globalism. This is 28 signs that the West Coast is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation from Fukushima. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Fukushima is because of the numerous natural disasters that have taken place there over the past few weeks. For example, earthquakes, typhoons, and I do believe they're about to get hit with another storm as well. So, and the reason you should care what happens to Japan, or more specifically, you should care about the natural disasters that happen in Japan because of Fukushima. This article is quite old, and the reason why I'm using an older article, in particular this one, is because each of the 28 signs that they go over have intensified since it's been published. So this is 28 signs that the West Coast is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation from Fukushima. 7 years after the Fukushima nuclear disaster, we bring to the attention of our readers this piece originally published in October of 2013. The situation today is far more serious than what is described in this article. And of course now it is. The map below comes from the Nuclear Emergency Tracking Center. It shows that radiation levels at radiation monitoring stations all over the country are elevated. As you will notice, this particularly true along the west coast of the United States. Every single day, 300 tons of radioactive water from Fukushima enters the Pacific Ocean. That means that the total amount of radioactive material released from Fukushima is constantly increasing, and it is steadily building up in our food chain. Ultimately, all of this nuclear radiation will outlive all of us by a very wide margin. They are saying that it could take up to 40 years to clean up Fukushima. And meanwhile, countless innocent people will develop cancer and other health problems as a result of exposure to high levels of nuclear radiation. We are talking about a nuclear disaster that is absolutely unprecedented, and it is constantly getting worse. The following are 28 signs that the west coast of North America is being absolutely fried with nuclear radiation coming from Fukushima. And it's not just the west coast either, by the way. Number 1, polar bears, seals, and walruses along the Alaska coastline are suffering from fur loss and open sores. Wildlife experts are studying whether fur loss and open sores detected in 9 polar bears in recent weeks are widespread and related to similar incidences among seals and walruses. The bears were among 33 spotted near Barrow, Alaska during routine survey work along the Arctic coastline. Tests showed that they had alopecia, or loss of fur, and other skin lesions, the U.S. Geological Survey said in a statement. Number 2, there is an epidemic of sea lion deaths along the California coastline. At island rookeries off the Southern California coast, 45% of pups born in June have died, said Sharon Millen, a wildlife biologist from the National Marine Fisheries Service based in Seattle. Normally, less than 1/3 of pups would die. It's gotten so bad in the past 2 years that the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration declared an unusual mortality event. Number 3. Along the Pacific coast of Canada and the Alaska coastline, the population of sockeye salmon is at a historic low. And of course, many are blaming Fukushima. Number 4. Something is causing fish all along the west coast of Canada, to bleed from their gills, bellies, and eyeballs. Number 5. A vast field of radioactive debris from Fukushima that is approximately the size of California has crossed the Pacific Ocean and is starting to collide with the west coast. Number 6. It is being projected that the radioactivity of coastal waters off the U.S. west coast could double over the next 5 to 6 years. 7. Experts have found very high levels of cesium-137 in plankton living in the waters of the Pacific Ocean between Hawaii and the west coast. 8. One test in California found that 15 out of 15 bluefin tuna were contaminated with radiation from Fukushima. 9. Back in 2012, the Vancouver Sun reported that cesium-137 was being found in a very high percentage of the fish that Japan was selling to Canada. Well, thank you very fucking much, Japan. 73% of mackerel tested, 91% of halibut, 92% of sardines, 93% of the tuna and eel, 94% of the cod and anchovies, 100% of the carp, seaweed, shark, and monkfish. Number 10. Canadian authorities are finding extremely high levels of nuclear radiation in certain fish samples. Some fish samples tested to date have had very high levels of radiation. One sea bass sample collected in July, for example, had 1,000 becquerels per kilogram of cesium. Now, we're going to look at what a becquerel is as soon as I can find the damn definition. Okay. It is a unit of radioactivity corresponding to 1 disintegration per second. And becquerel is the proper pronunciation. Alright, so I just did Canadian authorities. 11. Some experts believe that we could see very high levels of cancer along the west coast just from people eating contaminated fish. In quotes, look at what's going on now. They're dumping huge amounts of radioactivity into the ocean. No one expected that in 2011. Daniel Hirsch, a nuclear policy lecturer at the University of California, Santa Cruz, told Global Security Newswire, "We could have large numbers of cancer from ingestion of fish." 12. BBC News recently reported that radiation levels around Fukushima are 18 times higher than previously believed. 13. An EU-funded study concluded that Fukushima released up to 200 quadrillion becquerels of cesium-137 into the atmosphere. 14. Atmospheric radiation from Fukushima reached the west coast of the United States within a few days back in 2011. 15. At this point, 300 tons of contaminated water is pouring into the Pacific Ocean from Fukushima every single day. 16. A senior researcher of maritime chemistry at the Japan Meteorological Agency Meteorological Research Institute says that 30 billion becquerels of radioactive cesium and over 30 billion becquerels of radioactive strontium are being released into the Pacific from Fukushima every single day. So it's not just one type of radioactive waste, it's 2 or 3. 16 or 17 rather. According to TEPCO, a total of somewhere between 20 trillion and 40 trillion becquerels of radioactive tritium, 3, have gotten into the Pacific Ocean since the Fukushima disaster first began. So we have tritium, strontium, and cesium. 18. According to a professor at Tokyo University, 3 gigabecquerels of cesium-137 are flowing into the port at Fukushima every single day. I think it's Fukushima Daiichi. 19. It was or has been estimated that up to 100 times as much nuclear radiation has been released into the ocean from Fukushima than was released during the entire Chernobyl disaster. 20. One recent study concluded that a very large plume of cesium-137 from the Fukushima disaster will start flowing into U.S. coastal waters by early next year. And that was, again, in 2013. Or, not 2013. Yeah, 2013. Where did I? Yeah. Ocean simulations showed that the plume of radioactive cesium-137 released by Fukushima in 2011 could begin flowing into U.S. coastal waters starting in early 2014 and peak in 2016. 21. It is being projected that significant levels of cesium-137 will reach every corner of the Pacific Ocean by the year 2020. I bet it happens a lot faster than that. I mean, everything else happens faster than these people say. 22. It is being projected that the entire Pacific Ocean will soon have cesium levels 5 to 10 times higher than what we witnessed during the era of heavy atomic bomb testing in the Pacific many decades ago. 23. The immense amounts of nuclear radiation getting into the water in the Pacific Ocean has caused environmental activist Joe Martino to issue the following warning. Your days of eating Pacific Ocean fish are over. 24. The iodine-131, cesium-137, and strontium-90 are constantly coming from Fukushima are going to affect the health of those living in the northern hemisphere for a very, very, very long time. Just consider what Harvey Wasserman had to say about this. Iodine-131, for example, I guess that's a fourth contaminant. Iodine-131, for example, can be ingested into the thyroid where it emits beta particles, electrons, that damage tissue. A plague of damaged thyroids has already been reported among as many as 40% of the children in the Fukushima area. That percentage can grow only higher. In developing youngsters, it can stunt both physical and mental growth. 25. According to a recent Planet InfoWars report, the California coastline is being transformed into a dead zone. The California coastline is becoming like a dead zone. If you haven't been to a California beach lately, you probably don't know that the rocks are unnaturally clean. There's hardly any kelp, barnacles, sea urchins, and so on anymore. And the tide pools are similarly eerily devoid of crabs, snails, and other scurrying signs of life. And of course, these dead zones have gotten much, much larger and much worse since this article was written. 26. A study conducted last year came to the conclusion that radiation from the Fukushima nuclear disaster could negatively affect human life along the west coast of North America and Mexico to Alaska for decades. Oh, no shit. 27. According to the Wall Street Journal, it is being projected that the cleanup of Fukushima could take up to 40 years to complete. 28. Yale professor Charles Perrow is warning that if the cleanup of Fukushima is not handled with 100% precision, that humanity could be threatened for thousands of years. And you know they're not going to handle it with 100% precision. I mean, look at the disaster itself, where they put the damn power plant, all of that. Consider that, and then the notion of them handling the cleanup with 100% precision is utterly ridiculous. So, conditions in the Unit 4 pool, 100 feet from the ground, are perilous, and if any two of the rods touch, it could cause a nuclear reaction that would be uncontrollable. The radiation emitted from all these rods, if they are not continually cooled and kept separate, would require the evacuation of surrounding areas, including Tokyo. Because of the radiation at the site, the 6,375 rods in the common storage pool could not be continuously cooled. They would fission, and all of humanity will be threatened for thousands of years. Now, I covered these because if Japan, right here, Japan, if one of these earthquakes, if one of these typhoons or another tsunami hits Fukushima again, it's going to exacerbate the Fukushima problem by magnitudes we don't know yet. So, be on the lookout for things to happen there in Japan, because they've already been bombarded with floods and a typhoon, and more is about to hit them. So anyway, thought I would share this with you all. Hope you all have a great day. Remember, kill the state before the state kills you.